Secretary-General of the Palestinian National Initiative says Cairo meeting is a key step in supporting Egypt's efforts to form Gaza Administration Committee. Iran reopens airspace after brief closure amid rising regional tensions and US threats. And Israeli army carries out attacks and home demolitions in southern Lebanon's Marjayoun district.
And then, of course, we have the host tonight, and I just want to thank you very much. It was a reason we chose Egypt, because you were very helpful, and very, very helpful. Everybody wanted to have this, but we really thought it was appropriate, and you are a great leader. And he's a fantastic man and a fantastic general, by the way. But he's a great president, and I want to thank Egypt and all of your representatives for treating us all so well. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon and welcome. It's 4 o'clock, live from Cairo. This is Q News. Hamas Political Bureau member Hussein Badran has said Hamas has declared its complete willingness to transfer all administrative responsibilities in the Gaza Strip to a technocratic committee. He stressed that the movement fully supports the committee's mandate to lead Gaza's administration and carry out its duties during this critical and sensitive period. Secretary-General of the Palestinian National Initiative, Mustafa Barghouti, has said the Cairo meeting of Palestinian factions and political forces is a crucial step in backing Egypt's efforts to establish a committee to manage the Gaza Strip. He stressed the importance of unified Palestinian support for initiatives aimed at stabilizing governance and administration in Gaza.
وإلزام إسرائيل باحترامه وبوقف الاعتداءات الجارية على
Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine member Samir Abu Madela has said discussions among Palestinian factions centered on mechanisms for advancing to the second phase of the ceasefire agreement. He emphasized that Egypt has exerted intensive diplomatic efforts to help launch the next stage of the Gaza ceasefire and ensure its implementation. Palestinian Democratic Reform Current senior leader Osama El-Farah has said that the agreement on forming a technocratic committee is critical and critically important for halting aggression against the Palestinians. He added that all Palestinian factions have expressed their readiness to support the committee's work, underscoring unified backing for its role in managing Gaza and stabilizing the situation during the sensitive phase. Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine senior leader Marwan Abdul Al has said the Palestinian Technocratic Committee is expected to receive broad, unified backing from all Palestinian factions. He also praised Egypt's long-standing contributions to the Palestinian cause, expressing appreciation for Cairo's continued political and humanitarian support for the Palestinians. UNRWA has warned that its decades-long presence in occupied East Jerusalem is nearing a rapid end following disgraceful, as it says, Israeli actions. Director Roland Friedrich has reported that security forces forcibly stormed the Jerusalem Health Center, ordered it closed, and demanded the removal of all UN signage. The crisis is escalating as service providers issued notices to cut electricity and water to UN schools and clinics across the city. This crackdown follows December 2025 Knesset amendments designed to dismantle the agency's mandate. UNRWA officials stressed that humanitarian operations cannot survive without basic utilities. signalling a total collapse of UN services for Palestinian refugees in the territory. Following directives from Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati held intensive high-level talks with counterparts from France, Oman and Iran, as well as US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. The discussions focused on preventing a regional spillover amid rising US-Iran tensions and accelerating the transition to Phase 2 of the Trump peace plan for Gaza. A central component of these talks was the activation of the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, a 15-member Palestinian technocratic body led by Ali Shaath. Egypt emphasized the urgent need to deploy an international stability force to oversee the withdrawal of Israeli troops and initiate large-scale reconstruction. While Washington and Cairo coordinated on the demilitarization phase of the plan, Abdel Ati reiterated Egypt's firm stance against any separation of Gaza from the West Bank, positioning the new committee as a vital step toward a unified Palestinian political settlement. The Palestinian Ministry of Health has reported that the total death toll from the Gaza conflict has reached 71,441 and 171,329 injuries. That's all since October 2023. Despite a ceasefire in effect since October 11th, 2025, officials confirmed that 451 people have been killed and 1,251 injured due to ongoing violations of the truce, with thousands of victims still trapped under rubble. This update comes as mediators Egypt, Qatar and Turkey announced the formation of a 15-member technocratic committee led by Dr. Ali Shaath to manage the Strip's civilian affairs. And now let's go over to our newsroom where Rana is waiting for us. Rana?
Thank you so much, Mark. And for further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by Al-Ahram's managing editor, Mohammed Azzuddin. Welcome to Qnews, sir. Sir, how do you assess Egypt's role in Gaza over the past period?
Having me here on Qnews. Egypt's role is really important, and it was the most important actually, and it has been very prominent when it comes to political and diplomatic levels to implement the phases of the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, and also achieving the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement to begin with. And the Sharm el-Sheikh summit was proof that Egypt has really put in so much effort, and even the US president has praised Egypt's role when it comes to the Gaza coast. And of course Egypt has really good relationships with the occupied Palestine, and it is one of the closest countries to it and has the capabilities for reconstruction in the Gaza Strip. And also Egypt had a huge role when it comes to supporting the people of Gaza and the Palestinians in general through the aid and Egypt's keenness on sending humanitarian aid and trying to send as much aid as possible according to what the Israeli occupied forces have allowed, even though Israel has tried to manipulate and stall this agreement. And so Egypt's role is really prominent, and it gets more important by the day, especially after wanting to start phase 2, as we've seen these statements yesterday. And so here Egypt will still have a huge role with the mediators and in the international community when it comes to reorganizing and reforming the Gaza governance and also getting back the land that is called the Yellow Line.
How do you view the Cairo meeting regarding the selection of the Gaza Administration Committee?
It is a very important meeting actually, and it had all the representatives of the Palestinian factions and choosing Ali Shath to lead this committee was actually really successful and wise. He has enough expertise which will help him to govern the Gaza Strip and enter the reconstruction phase in the Gaza Strip. And then, all the names that were mentioned actually met welcoming and approval, and everyone thinks that these people and individuals that were chosen for the technocratic committee will be able to live up to what everyone is expecting for them. Of them, and then also they will be having a peace committee that will be governing the Gaza Strip according to Trump's peace plan. And of course everyone is waiting for what's going to happen after the formation of this stability or peacekeeping committee, and to see if Israel will actually comply to the Trump peace plan and the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement. And so Egypt's meeting was really important, and as I said, Turkey, Qatar and Egypt have actually all agreed on the importance of pushing the peace operation in the upcoming days and alleviating the suffering of the Gaza people.
What is your, sir, opinion and narrative on the Cairo agreement to form a committee to manage Gaza led by Sha'if?
As I said, it was very wise actually, and as I said, he has enough expertise to implement the next phase, the reconstruction phase, and then also. As I said, they have all agreed to the 15 names that they have suggested and proposed in this technocratic committee, and so I think that this committee's role will be actually very important, and Egypt of course has played a very important role here by hosting this meeting and allowing all the factions and all the sides to agree without any conflict. And of course this is huge when it comes to Egypt's efforts and Cairo's meetings and staying in contact on a political and diplomatic level or even a security level with the general intelligence shows that Egypt really cares about the Palestinian cause and really wants to implement the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement and to guarantee the rights of the Palestinians, and not allowing Israel to manipulate any of the points or even trying to stall them.
Could Israel attempt to obstruct the implementation of the second phase of the Gaza agreement?
Definitely, they're actually trying, and they claim that getting back their last deceased detainee is a condition to move on without any obstacles in the future. And then also there have been attempts to add more obstacles when they have requested to disarm Hamas immediately, and this wasn't actually agreed upon. They didn't. There was no timeline in the plan. Of course, as you know, they've been stalling humanitarian aid delivery, even with the winter conditions that the people of Gaza have been dealing with now, and so. The current government are just trying to stall until the upcoming elections, or for Netanyahu to get a presidential pardon for the cases that he is in trial for, and so he can run in the elections again. And so, yeah, I think that there will be a stalling and obstacles, but on the other hand, there is U.S. pressure, even if not directly, to make sure that Israel complies to the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement and Trump's peace plan. And so, yeah, I think that the more pressure the U.S. puts on Israel, the more Israel will actually comply, and the faster will be moving on to the next phases of the Trump peace plan until we reach a full Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, according to the agreement, and start reconstruction.
So what possible move can Trump do to implement and pressure Netanyahu to start the implementation of the second phase of the Gaza agreement?
Yeah, even though Trump has a lot on his plate right now, through foreign intervention, or the whole relationships with Europe, or the confrontation or the conflict with the Chinese trade, economic and trade wars as well. But Trump really cares about the Palestinian cause, and I mean the Gaza cause specifically, because this is a way for the U.S. to save face, and to for the U.S. to have better relationships with the countries in the region. And so the U.S. government thinks that implementing and completing the peace plan phases without harming Israel's security is really important for the U.S. so that they can deal with the Middle East and the Arab countries specifically. And so the U.S. president has tried, and also his government have made sure that Israel will comply to the peace plan. But of course, Israel is always attempting to make up things and make up a pretext so that they don't move on to the next phases of the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement. And as you know, they have even tried to renew the mandate, or trying to get the votes for the current officials. And so the U.S. role is very important actually, and I think that the U.S. should actually add maximum pressure, or put maximum pressure, so that we can move on to phase 2. As you know, it is the core of the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, and also allowing humanitarian aid.
From Cairo, that was Mohammed Izzeddin, Al Ahram managing editor. Thank you very much for joining us on Qnews. And now we go back to Mark in our studio. Mark?
Thank you very much, Rana. Thank you very much indeed. And now more are the developments in Gaza. Egypt has dispatched its 117th aid convoy under the Zaid al-Azhar Provision of Honour from Egypt to Gaza initiative from the Egyptian side of the border towards the Gaza Strip. The convoy carries thousands of tons of comprehensive humanitarian aid, including food parcels, 1,000 tons of flour, medical and relief supplies, personal care items, water and fuel. In response to severe weather conditions and the current low-pressure system in Gaza, the Egyptian Red Crescent has intensified winter supplies, delivering thousands of winter clothing items, blankets and hundreds of tents to shelter affected families. Since its launch on July 27th last year, the Egyptian initiative has delivered over 500,000 tons of aid, coordinated by 65,000 volunteers who have remained stationed at the border to ensure the continuous flow of relief through the Rafah crossing. US officials have revealed an intensive diplomatic push led by President Trump to form an international peace council to temporarily govern the Gaza Strip. President Trump is reported personally selecting the council's members, signaling the high priority his administration places on the initiative. Further details regarding the plan are expected to be unveiled during the World Economic Forum in Davos. According to US sources, the next 2 weeks will clarify the specifics of an international stability force to be deployed in Gaza, with several nations already committed to participating. The primary focus of the next phase will be disarmament, alongside US-Israeli consultations regarding a potential amnesty program for Hamas members as part of a comprehensive settlement. Despite these moves, changes remain as Israel remains skeptical regarding Hamas's commitment to disarming and the general Palestinian sentiment towards the peace process.
Fantastic. The person is fantastic. It's a he. I will tell you maybe within minutes. I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate.
And now to Iran, which has reopened its national airspace following a temporary shutdown that lasted several hours amid heightened regional tensions. The closure, which initially restricted all flights except specifically authorized international routes, triggered widespread alerts on flight tracking services. This precautionary move follows recent statements from President Trump, who indicated his administration is considering very strongly military options against Tehran. The escalation coincides with ongoing domestic unrest in Iran, driven by a sharp devaluation of the currency and controversial subsidy reforms, which have led to nationwide clashes between security forces and protesters. President Trump has announced that he has been informed by good authority that killing of protesters in Iran has stopped and that no executions are currently being planned. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump has stated that while Washington is working to verify these claims, he would be very upset if any executions were to proceed. Despite these reports of an easing crackdown, Trump has emphasized that the U.S. continues to monitor the situation closely, particularly following estimates that at least 2,400 people have been killed since protests began in December.
Well, we're going to be talking about that. We may get the internet going, if that's possible. We may speak to Elon, because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company, so we may speak.
Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has stated that Turkey will not condone the use of violence against Iran, urging Washington and Tehran to resolve their differences through direct dialogue or mediators. Speaking in Istanbul, Fidan has emphasized that Ankara opposes any military intervention, warning that destabilizing Iran would have catastrophic consequences for the entire region. These comments come as President Trump considers very strong military options following the deadly crackdown on nationwide protests in Iran, which have reportedly resulted in over 3,000 casualties since late December. While Trump suggested Iran is crossing a red line, Turkey maintains that the unrest is primarily driven by economic conditions and must be addressed through internal reform rather than external force. The UN Security Council will convene an emergency session this afternoon to discuss the rapidly deteriorating situation in Iran. Requested by the United States, the meeting aims to provide a comprehensive briefing on the nationwide unrest and the escalating clashes between protesters and security forces. The move comes as President Donald Trump increases pressure on the Iranian government telling reporters that the current regime may fail and suggesting that a red line has been crossed. Amid reports of internet blackouts and over 3,000 casualties since December, Washington is using the council to mobilize international condemnation of Tehran's crackdown. The Yemeni Presidential Leadership Council announced the revocation of Faraj Salmin al-Bashani's membership in the Presidential Leadership Council. The council stated that al-Bashani has exploited his constitutional position to provide political and legal cover for unlawful military movements carried out with the Southern Transitional Council by justifying the mobilization and deployment of forces affiliated with him from outside Hadramaut province, with the aim of attacking the province and its civil, military and private institutions.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
And now to Lebanon, and the Lebanese National News Agency reported that Marjayoun district witnessed a series of attacks carried out by the enemy army in a number of its towns. It noted that Israel targeted a residential house in the town of Blida, leading to its destruction, while the enemy army detonated one of the buildings in the center of the town of Kfar Kila. The agency added that the Israeli occupation army carried out the demolition of two houses in the border town of Edessa in the south of the country. Meanwhile, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam affirmed his government's full commitment to supporting southern Lebanon and the areas affected by the war. Salam stressed that reconstruction and the restoration of basic services are a priority, despite the challenges posed by the state's limited resources. The Prime Minister added that a recent field tour included several affected areas in southern Lebanon, including Tyre, Khayyam and Najd, with the aim of assessing conditions firsthand and engaging with residents to effectively meet their needs. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin. But before we go, just a chance to recap the top stories making headlines this hour. Secretary General of the Palestinian National Initiative says that Cairo meeting is a step in supporting Egypt's efforts to form Gaza Administration Committee. Iran opens airspace after brief closure amid rising tensions and US threats. And as we were just hearing, the Israeli army carried out attacks and home demolitions in southern Lebanon's Marjayoun district. And for more stories and live updates, follow Q News on our social media platforms at Q News EGY. From all of us here, thanks for watching. Stay here with us for In Depth, which is next on Q News.